The sign on the cafe entrance said closed, but Ryuji saw Sojiro beckoning him in through the window. The bell jingled as he sidled in, hands in pockets. His nostrils flared as the cafe's familiar aroma hit him. "Morning, boss. Damn, I wish that stuff tasted as good as it smelled." "More's the pity," he deadpanned. He was nursing his latest cup, staring at the wall. For once, the TV was off, but this was far from a positive sign. The news had gone from gloom and doom to just doom, the anchors only putting words to the apocalyptic vibe in the air. Morgana's head popped up from one of the booths. "You look like crap, Ryuji." "What can I say? I didn't sleep well." He yawned and stretched. "Are we the only ones here?" An wanted to swing back home to get cleaned up first. She stayed at my place. Long story. "Futaba's still out cold, but she's just a block away. So I figured I'd let her rest." "Futaba's still out cold, but she's just a block away. So I figured I'd let her rest. Hopefully the others will get here soon." "Yup, still not used to the talking cat thing," Sojiro remarked. "So, Ryuji pointed the finger upwards. "Is he still like..." "He's around," said Morgana. "He hasn't even moved from where he was sitting last night. I snuck upstairs to get a peek, and even though I kept quiet, he was already looking right at me. Guy's seriously creepy." "All right," Sojiro said, and set down his cup. "I won't intrude on your conversation any longer. Got some errands to run." He hung up his apron and put on his hat. "Just let the others in if they show up before I do." Ryuji watched as he left, stoop-shouldered, huddled a little against the cold. When the door swung shut, he slid into the booth Morgana had parked himself in. Morgana hopped up on the table, his tail lashing back and forth across the laminate. "He looks older," Ryuji said. "Yeah. Probably a good thing I came alone. I just wound up catching more shit from them." "About what happened last night? For today at least, I'd appreciate if you could..." "It's out of my system, don't worry." "Alright." Time passed. They awkwardly avoided one another's eyes. Ryuji cleared his throat. "Ain't too often it's just you and me, huh?" "I guess. It's just that I've kind of been getting stuff off my chest lately, so, while we've got the opportunity and all, just wanted to ask. We're cool, right?" Morgana strived to look as condescending as possible. "I certainly am. Not so sure about you." "Not like that. I mean, we shit-talk each other pretty good, but I just wanted to make sure we didn't, mean anything by it." He fidgeted in his seat, nervously scratched his neck. Morgana was staring at him as only cats could. "Like that time last year, when you ran off and found Haru, I kind of thought afterwards that I might have crossed a line there, but never really got a chance to..." "Ryuji, it was a year ago. I'm over it." Okay, cool. So we're cool?" "We're cool." "Cool." A slow smile spread across Morgana's chops. "If you're really feeling so penitent, I'll think up a list of ways you can make it up to me when I become human." The smile faltered. "Assuming that's even possible." "Yeah, it should be." His ears perked up. "You really think so?" "Dude, a cat turning into a human wouldn't even rank on the top 10 list of weird shit I've seen this week. Besides, ain't you literally made of hope or something? It's not a good look for you to get down over stuff. That's not really how it works, but thanks. Something to prioritize once this paranoia syndrome business is concluded. He flexed his paws, claws popping in and out. I'll have to get on Kurusa's case about it. Can't dawdle. Especially if I want to get my chance with Lady An. Ryuji shook his head. Alright, Morgana. Seriously, man to cat. You've got to cut out the Lady An shit. Humans don't talk like that. Only giant creeps talk like that. I don't know why no one broke it to you sooner. Huh? But I'm just trying to be chivalrous. What? Oh, for God's sake. He said under his breath. Then louder. Respectful. Courteous. This is Takamaki we're talking about, right? The same one who forced herself into the metaverse and 2 hours later started chopping dudes in half with a big-ass sword. I don't think she really cares about that sort of thing. He shrugged. Hell, she puts up with half of my crap without any problem. I don't think she's gonna give a damn about your attitude unless it's full of strawberries with whipped cream on top. You know, I've actually wondered the same thing. Morgana's voice turned strident. Sometimes I think that maybe she'll look my way if I shove myself in a birthday cake or something. Yeah. You remember how she was at the buffet after Kamoshida? I didn't know that much dessert could even exist. Every baker in the city's probably got her picture behind the counter at this point. I don't know where the hell she puts it. I never see her at the gym. Wouldn't be surprised if all that cake goes right to her. Whoa, dude, what's wrong? Morgana had suddenly straightened Ramrod stiff. His pupils dilated until that unnatural blue was swallowed up by a sea of black. With liquid grace, he jumped under the top of Ryuji's seat, leaned down to his ear, and whispered. I just realized Akechi can hear everything we say. The moment that followed was one filled with contemplation. I think we maybe ought to just shut up till the others get here, Ryuji said. Good call. It wasn't long before they did. The rest of the group shuffled in all at once, yawning and rubbing their eyes. The night hadn't been kind to any of them. Even Yusuke looked a little peaky. I was really enjoying that bro talk between Ryuji and Morgana. See, yeah, they may fight all the time, but they're still buddies, and that right there shows that they can still have a civil conversation without insults being peppered within. Back to the story. Morning, you two, An said. Anything interesting happened before we got here? Nope, nothing, Morgana said. Much too loud, much too fast. Makoto's eyebrow rose, but Ryuji came to his aid. Boss went out, but he'll be back. Meanwhile, we got the great detective cooling his heels upstairs. We got any idea what we're going to do with him? He's going to assist us in figuring out a course of action, Makoto said. But first, I think he needs to satisfy all our curiosity about something. What's that? She went to the foot of the stairs and looked up. Not a sound could be heard from the attic. I want to know how he survived. Okay, fair enough. To be born again, first you have to die. He was ready to die. In the grey days that followed, he would think that this, ironically, had been what saved him. Exhausted, beaten, and faced with the utter ruination of all his plans, he sealed the bulkhead door without hesitation, and then trained his gun on that slit-eyed doppelganger Shido's cognition had conjured up. That simulacrum looked triumphant, but then his twisted smile faltered, because Akechi could see his own face warp into a grin far more deranged. Here, mired in the very bottom of his self-loathing, with all his faults made obvious, and the hollowness inside him laid bare, was the chance to kill himself twice over. He almost wanted to laugh at the perfection of it. His cognitive self meant to shoot him center mass. The gun was leveled at his heart. But in that fatal moment of hesitation, Akechi fired first. He never even heard the second gunshot. He only felt a great blooming warmth in his head, and then everything went dark. He didn't know how long it was before he woke up again. He was sprawled out on the engine room floor, his cheek lying in shallow water. The pain was like acid laced into his skull, and made worse by the klaxon's ceaseless blare. With shaking fingers, he reached up to his head and felt the long crack in his helmet that the bullet had made. His cognitive self's aim had gone wild after Akechi had shot him, the gun pulling up just before its wielder dissolved into screaming smoke. His claws came away dripping blood. But not enough of it. Something was wrong. His eyes were full of haze, but as he propped himself up on one shoulder, the culprit was plain to see. Beak masked, barrel-chested, red and white and blue. His cape billowed in a breeze unfelt. In one hand he held his bow, planted on the wet ground like a shepherd's staff. The other was extended to him, and there, held delicately between thumb and forefinger, was something small and bent and blood-slicked. "Robin?" As he watched, Robin Hood squeezed and crushed the bullet flat, and then vanished in a cloud of embers. Akechi heard it plink into the water like a dropped coin, and then consciousness left him once more. His next awakening was a rude one. Freezing salt water rushing into his nose and open mouth, causing him to jump up like something spring-loaded, hacking out the spume even as his vision doubled and darkened from the stabbing pain in his injured head. The engine room had gone mad. Water rushed in from innumerable ruptures in the hull, and the great groaning hulk of the engine itself was spitting steam like a roused dragon. Its metal rashed with patches of cherry red. One of the screws came undone with a sprightly ping, and shot across the room hard enough to punch another hole in the hull, missing Akechi himself by inches. His feet scrabbled across the soaking ground as the whole ship listed to the side. He knew what all this meant. Akira and his friends had succeeded. The treasure was taken. The palace was coming undone. He privately scouted this place a number of times before invading it to kill the thieves, a bit of insurance that had turned out to be grossly insufficient. He knew there was no way out of here, except through the bulkhead he had already sealed, and his gunshot had rendered the panel inoperable. Every sounding of the klaxon was a drill bit boring through his head. The air was caustic with steam and gasoline fumes. The engine glowed like the open mouth of hell. There was nothing to do except drown or burn. Then, a rough purr from somewhere below, like a length of fabric caught on a nail. The water surged and nearly knocked him off balance. As he regained his footing, he saw it, in the center of the collapsing chamber. A rough hole in the solid metal flooring. There was no evidence of its making. The floor was there, and then it stopped, and all that was left was blackness so solid it would have scarcely resembled a hole at all, if not for this water sleeting into it and disappearing into that unfathomable dark. As something ruptured deep within the engine, and its valves burst off, and all its pipes chattered like the instruments of some demented musical band, Akechi carefully made his way over to the hole and looked down. No telling where it led, if it led anywhere at all. Uncertain death versus certain death. He had minutes, maybe seconds, and yet he hesitated. None of that now. He cried out and recoiled, palms splayed around his head. The voice was quiet, faintly bemused, but when it spoke, he felt like his skull would burst like old fruit. The pain knocked his vision back into fuzz, and there was only the klaxon, drowned into meaninglessness by that voice. The choice before you is the only choice there has ever been. Heads or tails, black or white. Die and find peace, or live and continue to suffer. He tried to scream for it to stop, but the words fell over and died before they could leave his mouth. All that came out was a series of wet gasps as he struggled not to fall to his knees. His head was on fire inside. The world blurred and swam around him, but in that chaotic fog, something stood out like a guiding star. A distant spark, bobbing up and down like fairy light. Vacant one. You are alone. Every delusion has been purged. Here remains the truth. You have nothing left to do but fall. The final question is, how? Flames licked from within the belly of the engine. The hull bulged inward as if plagued with boils. He walked toward that light until the toes of his boots hung over the lip of that hole. How will you fall, vacant one? Akechi fell. Okay, that quite a creepy dream sequence there, but wait, maybe this is explaining how Akechi survived in the boiler room. If it is, holy hell.